So I wanted to give a little introduction of our keynote speaker, Domhnaill Hernon. He's the head of experiments in art and technology at Nokia Bell Labs. And by the way, one of my favorite things to do is read Domhnaill's LinkedIn posts, because he's always coming up with these really amazing streams of thought around leadership and art and technology and the intention and authenticity. So I really encourage you all to follow him on LinkedIn, because it's really like one of my favorite things to do every week. So he graduated with a degree in aeronautical engineering and a PhD in fundamental fluid mechanics from the University of Limerick, and has an executive MBA from the Dublin City University in Ireland. He is passionate about turning research and ideas into reality and exploring bounds of creativity to push the limits of technology. Domhnaill was previously responsible for turning Bell Labs' distributed research assets into proto-solutions that could be tested at scale in the market, and he has pioneered new methods to overcome the innovation valley of death. He is currently responsible for Bell Labs' global activities in E.A.T, which he collaborates with the artistic and creative community to push the limits of technology to solve the greatest human need and challenges. Everybody welcome Domhnaill Hernon.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
It's great to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I feel honored to celebrate the 50th anniversary. In fact, Bell Labs kind of lost our connection with the artistic community for the last couple of decades. And it was with this 50th celebration of the 9 evenings, which spawned the E.A.T movement in the 60s, that brought us back to collaborating with the creative community. Because in those conversations through that 50th celebration year, we realized we were really missing that dimension, that different dimension of thinking, and bringing the human-centric approach into how we were thinking about technology. So hopefully this celebration can spur the next future iterations of what Leonardo will be. And thanks, Danielle, for the invitation and all the great conversations. I think we've cooked up a couple of fun things we hope to do in the future together, and link the two organizations in a more strong way. So I'm an engineer. I don't know if I should apologize for that, but I'll say it up front. I do work in a tech company. I am, for the most part, a tech head. So I see myself as a technologist and an engineer, but I happen to be working in this intersection of art and technology. And I'm going to give you a talk from my perspective, but it's from the perspective of a tech company. So just keep that in mind. I'm not trying to cover all bases here, but I am kind of targeting that perspective. And there will be some questions or comments that will say, well, you didn't mention this and you forgot about that, and that's just because I can't cover every angle. So what I'll talk about is, I'll give a few examples at the start, but also throughout the talk, around the concept of going beyond the sound bites that you hear today, and going beyond the check-the-box exercises that tech companies are taking with respect to how they are talking about innovation, how they are fusing art and technology, going beyond the sound bites around AI, going beyond the sound bites of diversity and inclusion as well. So I want to talk a little bit about all of that, the importance of understanding fundamentally what it is that you're trying to do, so that then you can have real impact when you try and affect change through these different lenses. I want to talk a little bit about why and how we work with the creative community. I'll give you some examples of that. And then I want to talk at the very end about some recent kind of revelations that I personally had, attention that I personally have, being an engineer in the space I'm in. And I kind of call this, just to keep your interest peaked so you don't lose interest, I'm cryptically calling this the pandemic that is cows, and how cows are negatively affecting humanity. Cows, it's an acronym for something you'll learn later, so you can't fall asleep now. Hopefully I've piqued your interest. So, I mean, one of these buzzwords that drives me crazy, and in fact, you know, you've heard in my bio, I mean, I've used it as well, and I don't think there's a better word, but really the issue is, you know, if everything is innovative, then absolutely nothing is innovative. And just because you work on blockchain does not mean you're innovative. Just because you release the next version of your phone or watch or car or whatever does not mean that that is innovative. And the reason that this gets me worked up is because we are diluting what true innovation is by overusing the terminology. And why should I be worked up by that, or why should you get worked up by that? And the reason is because if we dilute what true innovation is, then we are not going to push humanity to our greatest potential. So words are important, as we all know very well in recent times. And it's very important to understand fundamentally what these things are that we're trying to achieve. So I want to talk a little bit about innovation. And I'll give you a couple of examples. I'm doing consumer-centric technology that is very kind of appropriate for the geographical area we're in here around the valley. Is this innovation where every smartphone that comes out looks and functions exactly the same? It can't possibly be. Is it innovative that every smartwatch on the market functions and looks pretty much the same? Surely that's not what innovation is. Let's take a different industry. Is it innovative that you have these models of car that look and perform pretty much the same as they did however many decades ago? Here, let's look at the most quote-unquote innovative of companies. Let's look at Tesla. Just on the outside of it, that's Tesla beside a Ford. I don't see innovation. Okay, there's semi-autonomous blah, blah, blah. Tesla have never made a profit. They've been in existence for 15 years. They've never made a profit in any single quarter ever. How could that possibly be innovation? That's a startup, a long-lived startup that has ideas that never hasn't made real impact from a financial point of view. Is that innovation? I don't know. Maybe there's aspects of it that are, but I think innovation should be something bigger than that. And I'm talking about it in the context of really pushing humanity forward. So if I've given examples of what innovation might not be, let's talk about what innovation is. So I think a very good definition or construct of innovation is it kind of comes in two main parts, and you can't have either on their own. They have to come together. Innovation has to be something that's inventive, it has to be entirely new, it has to be entirely differentiated, it has to be entirely unique, and when you have that uniqueness and newness, then it has to be something that's impactful. What that means really from the context of what I talk about is it has to be world-changing, it has to solve a big human need problem, and only when you have the combination of two of them should something be called innovation or innovative, in my perspective. And I think if we don't hold innovation to that bar, then we are diluting what innovation truly is, and we're diluting our ability to affect societal change in humanity. And especially with respect to technology, because we have all these quote-unquote innovative technologies that are coming out, and they're really not positively impacting us. In fact, there's lots of examples where they're negatively impacting humanity. So the question then is, how do you get to this inventive, new, differentiated, plus impactful approach? And I'm going to talk about this in a bit of detail. What I call it, you have to achieve what I would call diversity of everything. That's kind of the rule, but the theory is defined by the adjacent possible. So I want to talk a little bit about what I mean by the adjacent possible, why it's important in the context of all the sound bites that you hear today. I want to kind of have you hopefully understand this a bit better and think about this as a framework for how you might affect change in any of your organizations. And then throughout the talk, have this in the back of your mind as a framework to link to the things I'm talking about and how you might change your own course in your own direction. So the adjacent possible is a scientific theory that proves why diversity in biological ecosystems is critically important. And what it basically does, it explains to you how you can only have evolutionary leaps in a biological ecosystem if you have these different biological elements that come together and are fused together in new and unique ways. And that's basically it in its entire simplicity. This theory can then be applied to innovation, technology, social interactions, lots of different things. So I want to explain to you